Hey folks, hope you're all doing amazing. We are going live here and I'm really excited to dive into the interview today. I'm bringing on our client Casey, who we helped have her first 10K month in January. So I'm just making sure that everyone's log on here and we are jumping on here, folks. Super excited about this. If you're watching the replay of this, you can go ahead and comment down below. But I'm going to invite Casey on here and I'm to dive into this, folks. So let's rock and roll. I think Casey is jumping on here. If you guys have questions, by the way, as we're going into all of these things here today, make sure that you go ahead and comment them down below. And if you're watching the replay as well, you can definitely go ahead and comment down below your questions. And we're going to get rocking and rolling, folks. So bringing Casey on here, and let's get going here. Who do we all got on here? As you're coming on, comment down below your niche, your name, where you're coming in from. And also, yeah, comment down below if you are wanting to get to those 10K months. We got Kimberly, we got Jody. Hey, folks, hope you're doing amazing. And we are just loading Casey here into the group call. But yeah, folks, comment down below where you're watching from. It's good to see a bunch of you are jumping on here. So it's just loading. Sometimes these just take a little second to load, which is no worries at all. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead. Okay. I'm going to try to invite. Let's see. I'm going to make sure that I can get Casey on here. Let's go. I'm going to send that invite out there. Thanks for bearing with us, folks. See if we get that. Oh, I think it's working.
Yep, but now I'm sideways. How do I turn myself?
You know what? You did look straight to me. This looks straight.
Oh, does it?
Which is really weird. You know what? I had this happen last time. That someone
very strange.
for
I'm
a whole
tilted to the side.
This kind of happened last time. I don't know why Facebook is like this. Like literally, I did this like I don't know a couple of weeks ago with a client, and like they said the same thing, and I was like, I don't know why it does this. But
yeah, it's
you look
throwing me off, but it's okay. As long as I'm right side up, that's totally fine.
It is. Look here. I will show you
Perfect.
visually.
Okay,
look at that. You can see that. It's legitimate. Okay, folks. Well, thanks for jumping on, everyone. Elena, we got Jody, Michelle. Thanks for jumping on, folks. As we're going through this, make sure you're throwing down your questions down below because I always find these are so helpful because it's so easy for business coaches like myself to just post screenshots of people like making money and winning, but it doesn't actually give you insight onto how they're doing it and into their real lives. And I love doing these because it's just real and authentic. So Casey, let's get started. I don't want to take too much of your time here today. Introduce yourself to people. Tell them a little bit about you, what you do, and then let's just dive in.
Yeah, so I'm Casey Stewart. I'm a working mom. I still work a full-time corporate 9-to-5. My business is called the Working Mom Collective. So I am a performance and habit coach for high-level working moms.
Awesome. I love it. I love that. And I love your niche because I know there's a lot of people in the like mom space, I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
But like you're so specialized and you got such great advice for these people. So amazing stuff. So now talk to people a little bit about before CCI, what your business looked like. Because I love to give them a bit of an idea of like where you were, what we've been working on, kind of some of the results, just so that they can maybe put themselves in your shoes and be like, okay, maybe I should do some similar things. So give them a kind of a breakdown of like what the business looked like before working with CCI.
Yeah, so very much throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what would stick. I feel like I did a little bit of everything. I did some one-on-one coaching. I did basically a version of the membership that I have right now, but I did it completely for free. I basically brought people in and said, you know, I'll let you jump in for free, but give me feedback on every single call so that way I could tweak things and create the program I have now. I did little challenges along the way, but nothing really, not one signature program that I was really behind. And because of that, the sales aspect, I mean, was almost non-existent, if not completely all over the place. I would do like a quote unquote launch of, like I said, a challenge or something like that, make a little bit of money, and then that would be over and it would be like, okay, now what? And so it was constantly this kind of churning up and down. But right before, I think I jumped in CCI in November of
Yes.
2024,
Yeah.
and I launched my program, officially the program that I still have today. October 7th was the first start date of
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
So I started to get a little bit of sales. I felt like, okay, this is going to be my thing. This is going to be my program. But I really felt like at that point, I was starting to make a little bit of money and I was getting really excited.
Mhm.
And already my brain was like, what do I do next? Right? I can't,
Right.
with this like spaghetti all over the wall, let me try something new.
Yeah.
And I think especially being an entrepreneur and kind of being creative, your brain is always spinning with these new ideas.
Yeah, totally.
You reached out to me, you continually reached out to me, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to hear what you have to say. And I did. And then you connected me with Candace.
Yeah.
And once I heard the investment, I was like, I don't know. I don't think I can do it. My business hadn't made anywhere near the amount of the investment at that point.
Yeah.
And then you sent me to Candace. I binged all of her podcast as much as I could.
Yeah.
And her whole message was creating something unrealistic. And that word unrealistic just really stuck to me because it didn't make sense at the time for me to make that investment based on where my business was.
Yeah.
But just something about her approach, knowing that she was also a working mom. I think that was one of my fears was, and maybe a limiting belief I was carrying around, how do I do this as a mom that's also working a full-time corporate 9-to-5, that's trying to build this business? How do I balance all of the things? Especially when my whole brand, my whole business is helping women balance all the things. And so I can't sacrifice that for myself. And, you know, I have to be an example for my clients as well. I have to be living out what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I love that. And folks, if you're on here today and you're watching, and if you feel like you've been making a little bit of money, but you're looking for the next steps, comment down below. I'm curious if anyone's in the same boat as Casey. But walk me through a little bit more of that, because obviously investing in a business mentor, it's like, number one, do I trust these people? Number two, like, do I have enough time as a working mom to be able to put towards this?
Yeah.
What were some of the reasons that you were actually thinking maybe this wasn't a good fit, like, and a good time?
Yeah.
Like, what were some of the reasons for why maybe at that point you're like, maybe I shouldn't do it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm a very analytical person. Very analytical. So I know I went back and forth with you. I asked you every single detail. What does this include? What do I get out of this? How many calls? And I wanted to know all of those specific details. But I think that's kind of, for me, it really came down to, I really wanted to see the proof in my business that I could make the investment back. That's really what it came down to for me. And at that point, again, I hadn't proven to myself that I had made the investment worth, but I kind of did the math and I was like, okay, if I, you know, I think every single business coach or every single coach in any industry I've ever heard of that had a coach, you always hear that the minute they hire the coach is when, like, the next they hit their biggest month in their business. And just consistently, I had heard that from so many people. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm at a place where, and I think Candace even talked me through this, and maybe you did as well, but an investment is meant to stretch you. And when the investment stretches you just to the right point, you're going to put in the time, the energy, all of that to where you are not going to let yourself not make that money back. And I knew that about myself. And so I feel like that's where I finally felt like I was ready to take that plunge. But the reason why I didn't want to and why it took so long is because I hadn't found the proof in myself yet, right? I didn't believe I could do it.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, because I always tell people, like, there's basically, you have to have belief in a couple different things. Number one, that you can do it. Number two, belief in the pathway and the people helping you with it, right? There has to be, I mean, a certain level of confidence when people purchase anything. And that's, it's a really good thing to also remind ourselves, for you, Casey, for the other people who are watching here, is that we actually need to help people get that confidence, not only in us as humans and our programs, but also in themselves. Half of the battle is actually like empowering people to make a decision that's best for them. That's a really cool way even of thinking of sales, is like, how do you actually empower them to believe in themselves more? So walk people a little bit through the first 2 months of CCI, basically kind of like November, December, a bit of January, and you can give some specifics. I don't care if you share specifics at all, because I want people to know a little bit about what it's actually like to work with the team and how they customize stuff to you. So what are maybe some of those things that Candace helped you with, and the strategies and the support?
So I think specifically for me, like I said, one thing that really stood out, and honestly, one reason I love CCI is because I do get Candace, who maybe her approach is not traditional CCI, and then
Yeah.
I get CCI. So I kind of get access to multiple coaches and multiple approaches, and then
Yeah.
I get to customize what works best for me. So
Yeah.
even in the chat, you're in the chat, Candace is in the chat, you guys might have different opinions on things, and then I get to choose for my business what's best. Oftentimes
Yeah.
you guys agree, which is helpful.
Yeah.
But I think that the big thing that Candace really helped me with, the biggest shifts were mindset shifts. Because again, at that point I had bought in, and the second I spent the investment, I felt like a little boost in my confidence, and I felt like I was showing up different on social media. I was starting to make a little bit more in sales.
100%.
But again, I feel like she did a really good job of kind of like reining me in when I wanted to go all of these different paths,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
keeping me on track.
Yeah.
I think that was really beneficial. But again, I think the biggest thing for me in CCI is being able to have the access right away off the bat. Honestly, I did not really dive into the CCI training vault because it felt like too much. I didn't want to take in, I know my analytical mind is like, let me gather all the information. And I was trying to do things a little bit differently. One thing I really like with Candace is that right off the bat, I was like, look, I am a working mom. Again, I have to have those boundaries. I have to almost think of it like in my business, I have to think of my business and little habits I can implement along the way versus I can't be the stereotypical entrepreneur right now. I can't pull the late nights. I can't work
100%.
all the weekends. I can't do those things. So she really helped me look at my business from where do I want to be in a long-term sustainability in terms of what's going to make me money right now. And it turned out that as I was building my business in a sustainable way, within the first couple of months, I like boom had a 10K month, which to me was unheard of. And now it feels like if I don't get another 10K month, I'm kind of like, what's wrong? Like what happened? You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, I always tell people in entrepreneurship, when you hit a new level, it's like your baseline improves, right? And I talk about this. I'm a big into the running world as well. And we always talk about what's your baseline and what's your goal, right? And when you hit your goal, it kind of like, that is the new baseline. It's like, now that I've been able to like if I can run a marathon once, I could run a marathon again, right? It's kind of like this new baseline. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And you also are now the person you've proven to yourself through putting in the work when you didn't have the proof. You didn't have the proof that if I do this work, I would get there, but you did it nonetheless. But now that you have the proof, it's like, I know exactly what to do to repeat this, which is, I find, is one of the most helpful things, is actually looking back and being like, this is what I all did. This is the result. So if I just simply repeat that again, in theory, and oftentimes in practice, I'll have a very similar result in business. Now, I know some of the people here today, and by the way, folks, if you have questions, please do comment them down below, because I know a lot of you want specifics on stuff. If you would have to, I guess, put it into one or two strategies that you found most helpful for yourself that Candace and CCI taught you, what would be those 1 to 2 like more like tactical? Because I know some people are like, what's the nitty gritty? So maybe go through 1 or 2 that you found not only helpful but also produce good results.
So outside, honestly, I feel like the biggest thing so far had been like the identity upgrade and the mindset shifts. But if we want to get to like a tactical strategy perspective, I had no freaking systems in place. I didn't know. I mean, you even got onto me. I'm like texting people. You're like, what? Right? So just getting like some automation in place, because again, I am a busy working mom. Time is my most valuable, my most limited resource. So being able to put some of those very tactical automations in place, implementing a flow desk email list. I did not have that before. That is huge. I just implemented like a couple of days ago, like some Zapier automations. ClickUp. I know I'm like big time.
Fancy.
There we go. But just like implementing some of those automation steps. So if people want that freebie, I know with CCI, it's really big on giving out that freebie resource. I didn't have that before. So I did create, a freebie resource. I actually just made another one. So like literally right before this call, to be able to use that to add people to my email list and then be able to continue to drip on them. Those are things I definitely did not have before CCI. I'm trying to think of like other tactical pieces. I feel like that was huge. Also, another one of the coaches, Morgan, again, being in CCI, you have access to the coaches and all of the other training calls. I was on one sales training call and I had like 4 pages of notes, and I implemented that strategies. I don't do sales calls in my business, but I do voice note back and forth or DM, and so I could use that same strategy for closing people. And honestly, That is why I had such a successful January's, because I knew the exact very specific things I needed to target in my
Yes.
message to help the client understand the ROI, because for
Yeah.
my business, my ROI, I'm not a business coach, so I can't say invest 10 grand with me and I'll help your business make 20 grand, right?
Yeah.
So my ROI is a little bit less
Yeah.
tangible. So having that kind of sales call framework that I could use was so
Exactly.
helpful.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I think a lot of people, it's hard to actually, I was talking to one of our team members the other day. I'm like, it's hard to actually explain customized coaching.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to market. We'll help you with Facebook groups, or we'll help you with
Yeah.
Instagram ads, or we'll help you. It's so much easier to do that. But the way that we've always loved building a business is being like, hey, you come in, we look at what you have, and
Yeah.
we help you actually craft the way you want to build it. That doesn't mean we won't make pivots along the way and try something I didn't like that, but we're building something for you so that it's lasting and sustainable. Because too many people, they'll build their business in a certain way, and then all of a sudden they're like, I hate this, and then they go to
Right.
ground zero.
Right.
And so I feel like you did such a good job of explaining that. It's like, you have all these resources, you have this customization. I mean, for the people watching here today, Casey, I know a lot of these people are kind of where you were at. Some of them maybe have started to make some money. Some of them are kind of at the beginning stages of their journey.
Yeah.
What would you say is some of the most important, I know you talked about like mental and mindset stuff, and then also like strategy for people who were basically where you were 3 to 4 months ago? What would be some of the biggest pieces of advice you'd have for the people watching today and watching the replay?
Yeah. So kind of going back, I mean, like to my business and how I live my life, it's truly all coming down to habits. I
Yeah.
really focus on, if you are just executing small things every single day, over time, those things are going to add up. So
Yeah.
whether it's habits with like being consistent with posting content, I mean, my first year before I was even making any money, I was posting on, I'm not saying this is the right strategy, but I was posting on social media 3 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I don't do that now, but I made sure that, and even now, I'm posting on social media every single day. I'm talking about my offers. I'm showing up on stories. I'm talking with clients.
Yeah.
But I'm doing those things every single day. And rather than being focused on getting, I saw you made a post about it today, like the perfect piece of content. I am such a type A perfectionist, and
For
those kind of
sure.
things would have held me back.
Yeah.
My focus in the beginning was just let me be consistent.
Yeah.
Let me be consistent with whatever small daily things I can find that are going to help me get out there. Maybe it's recording a freebie,
100%.
maybe it's whatever it is in your business, but just something small every single day. Eventually, you're going to make money because you didn't quit.
I love that. And that's so true. So many people quit just too soon. I mean, if I would have quit a year into my business, I would have missed out on so much. And frankly, I mean, that first stage of business is where it's the easiest to quit.
Right.
And it's where it's also sometimes the hardest, right? And so I like to not sugarcoat things, because for entrepreneurs, I think it's good to have realism around this. It is going to take some effort. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some consistency. But if you have the vision for where you can be in a couple of years, if it's still worthwhile for you to put all of that time in now to get there eventually, you got to keep going, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on here, folks. Do you have any specific questions for Casey? How have your kids been through this process, mommy work balance? That's a great question.
Yeah. So really good. I'm going to be honest. I am super strict with like my time around, honestly, anything. I time block everything. My girls are really young, 2.5 and 4.5. So my 2.5-year-old definitely has no clue what I'm doing, but I am very intentional about like not having my phone out in front of my kids.
Yeah.
Does it happen every now and then? Absolutely. I'm human. But I am so particular about making sure that I am a very present mom.
Yeah.
And so I block time specifically. Again, it comes to being consistent with habits. I treat my business like habits. I
Yeah.
block time specifically for this. I do primarily a lot of my work on my business in a short amount of time after they go to bed. I'm really picky about my sleep and making sure I'm operating 100%, or before they're awake, or I allot time for it during the day.
Right.
So my kids really aren't, I mean, they're only positively impacted by my business and the money that it's brought in.
I love that. I love that. I love that. The working mom, you can be everything. You can do it all. I love that. One other question is, how did you work through your type A perfectionism, from Kimberly?
It's really, really hard. It's something I still struggle with. I think for me, It just takes consistency and reps of continually putting yourself out there. I actually just watched back, like TikTok now is giving me all of the videos from previous years, or from last
Right.
year, because now I've been doing it for a little over
Yeah.
a year. All the memories pop up, and I saw one of my old ones and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cringy and so awful to go back and watch. But again, it just takes reps.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that's really kind of what it's been for
100%.
me.
I always tell people, if you want to have the perfect post 1,000 times.
Right.
You'll probably have the perfect post by then.
Yeah.
And I always think like confidence and like basically any type of skill set only comes through reps.
It's reps.
At the day, some people have more natural talents than others in certain areas. I mean, you're great on content. I can see that you are naturally gifted, but also, I mean, frankly, reps is the only things that creates a better experience and a better result, right?
Yeah. I
love this.
Too, from a perfectionist perspective, I keep thinking about like, if I don't do anything because I don't have that perfect post, what am I missing out on? Right. And so perfectionism almost some kind gets disguised as like procrastination.
Yeah.
And so I really like to like set deadlines for myself. And again, if I keep in mind, like I have to get a post out every single day, whether I have a perfect post or not, then it's kind of like I post what I post, you know, and some days it's great and other days it's not, and you move on.
For sure. I love it. I love it. Last question, because I know you are a busy person, is what's next for Casey? Now that like, hey, we've seen some increase in business, what's the next 3 to 6 months look like for you? And what are you excited about going after next?
Yeah. So I think right now I am so focused on just creating the same result, like repeating kind of what I've already been doing. So next 3 to 6 months, we have a lot of changes going on in our personal life and our family. My husband is applying to the airlines right now. He's going to be gone a lot. We've got 2 little ones, all of the things. And so really just looking on continuing to create that consistency for us. Long term, I am planning and hosting an in-person event retreat for working moms in September.
I love that.
So I'm really excited about that. That'll be coming, like I said, September this year. So those are kind of the big things.
Amazing. Well, hey, if you're a working mom and that retreat sounds great, you should make sure that you go check out Casey's stuff. I think her name is in the comments here, so you can find her there and message her. Last thing I'll say before we hop off, folks, if you are wanting, just like Casey, to get some type of customized coaching for building your business, getting great results, not only financially, but also building that belief in yourself, I'm actually going to be throwing down below in the comments, there's a link there to book a chat with our team at this point. So if you're wanting to hear about how we can support you, how the customized coaching works, and see if it's a good fit for you, you can go ahead and use that link to book a time to chat with our team. But Casey, thank you for taking your precious time to be on here. And folks, make sure that you're thanking Casey as well, because all this value here today is only possible because she took her time and gave it to all of us. So if you have any other questions, folks, feel free to either comment them down below or message me directly. But that's it for today, folks. Thanks for jumping on, Casey. Thanks for jumping on, folks. And all of you have a great Friday and a fantastic weekend. Okay, folks? Bye for now.
Bye.